I learned from two different people. One was my first boss, who basically said, leaders accept and align with reality. And the other was William Shakespeare, who in Julius Caesar says, take the current when it serves, or prepare to lose thy endeavors, which means go with the flow, man, or go with the flow, woman. There are three realities that are unstoppable in the world. The first one is globalization. And despite China and everything else, 2 billion people have come out of poverty because of globalization. And if the West decides they don't want to globalize, the world will circumvent around them. The top 20 ports in 2018, the first time there's a Western port, it's number 12, Rotterdam. The first time there's a US port, it's number 18, LA. Globalization is unstoppable. You can tweet all you want, doesn't stop it, number one. Number two is demographic shifts. Demographic shifts you've heard about, whether it's the dividend in India of young people, older people in China, people dying out in Japan and Russia, but these are somewhat real things, and obviously Africa going from 1 to 2 to 4 billion people, which is pretty dramatic. In the United States, this year, in the workforce became Caucasian minority. Next year, at the end of next year, under 18 years old, the United States will become Caucasian minority. If people don't like the way we look or other people look, kill everybody under 18, otherwise you can't stop anybody. Thank you very much. Third, technology. Technology is the other key trend, and we're about to enter the third connected age. The first connected age gave rise to search, gave rise to e-commerce, Google and Amazon. The second was basically in 2007, was mobile and social, Facebook, Apple. We went to the third, which builds, and that is data connecting to data, which is what AI is. Things connecting to things, which is the Internet of Things. New ways of connecting, voice being one, AR probably coming up, soon maybe VR, and finally much faster ways of connecting, which is 5G. Any business, any human being that does not align with globalization, these demographic shifts and these technology will unfortunately lose their ventures and will not ever listen to Shakespeare. That's number one. Number two, in such a world, certain things have become paramount to people in business. And you heard from our esteemed panel. One of them is the velocity of change. Things are moving much, much, much faster. The second one is a major intensity of data. So data is basically driving a lot of the wealth creation. So those companies which were Google, Facebook, Amazon, are really data-driven companies at heart. But the third one, besides data and velocity, is a different mindset and expectations of the people who we work with, who work for us. And that is one of the key things that we should be watching for as leaders, because while 10% are under 30, most of us are probably past our sell-by date, okay? But we still are leaders. So how do we make sure we remain relevant? When I talk with young people, which I do a lot, and I do this around the world, I fly about 150 flights a year, and I work across probably every major and small company around the world, primarily a lot of them in the United States, United Kingdom, China, India, and France. That's our headquarters. What I basically have noticed is in the end, what people are actually looking for is they're basically looking for, do I fit in this company? More and more people are asking, do I actually align with this company's goals? It's one of the reasons why even companies that are extremely successful, because they're fixated on consumers and fixated on profit, they are now running into trouble. I wrote a talk, or gave a talk, which has been in many boardrooms, which says it's time to optimize for the citizen and not the consumer. And this was long before the Business Roundtable figured this out. And by the way, I've gone to the ultimate capitalism school, which is the University of Chicago. And at the University of Chicago, they actually had written papers, including a friend of mine who's written the book, Raghu Rajan, who you have heard of, okay, which is Saving Capitalism from the Capitalists. Because capitalism is basically about competition. What we basically now have is monopolies. And so to a great extent, people are asking, and including the people in those companies, inside Google, inside all these people, what the hell are we doing? Right? Why are we letting people who are crazy, give them, who terrorize women, giving them money to leave? Right? Why are we doing stuff with Maven? When we say do no evil, which they've actually removed, why are we working with the Chinese? These are things that are very, very fundamental. So one is, is this company for us? The second one people are asking is, will we grow? Will we gain new skills? Are the skills that we're learning in this company relevant for our future? And the third one that they basically ask is, do we like the people around us? Are we going to basically connect? Are we building relationships? And what I worry about is in today's world, because of velocity, because of data-driven, we are actually forgetting what actually matters inside companies. People, right? So while we are in a digital silicon-based, data-driven world, we are analog, carbon-based feeling people. And too many businesses and too many leaders are focusing on the spreadsheet and forgetting the story. And I'm not anti-spreadsheet. I have an advanced degree in mathematics. So I'm not anti-spreadsheet at all. I'm not anti-digital. If you read my history, you kind of will think I only do digital. But that's not where the world is going. So with that, I did a lot of research and I got so worked up, I actually decided to write a book, which will basically come out, that's it, okay? Which will come out in January 28th. It's going to be published globally in English by Harper Collins, globally in Mandarin by Shanghai Duke, globally in Spanish by different people. And they even paid me. So I had Penguin Random House and Harper Collins bid against each other, which is fun, for this book. But one of the key things that I want to say is this, that we, all of us, have to sort of recognize that people are watching us as leaders. And whether you're 29 years old, all of us are basically leaders. And what they're basically watching us, very closely is, are we the following things? Are we truly, truly helping people grow? Are we authentic or not? And so I studied good bosses and I studied bad bosses. And I'm going to now use Tolstoy's. I've already used Shakespeare, so I'm going to use Tolstoy. So Anna Karenina begins with, all happy families are the same, all unhappy families are unhappy in their own way. I've discovered that all of us have in us good boss and bad boss. There is nothing like a good boss and a bad boss. The good bosses tend to basically be good most of the time. But under the right pressure circumstances, all of us can become quite weird, right? So what is a good boss? And good bosses tend to have 5 criteria. And this is what people are watching for. The first and most important is integrity. Can I actually believe you? Are you honest? This is number 1. Number 2 is, can you inspire me? Because in this particular world, people do not follow titles, they follow people. So can you inspire me? The third is, can you empathize with me? The fourth is, are you vulnerable? Right? Are you actually vulnerable? And can you tell me what you've learned over the years yourself versus being something very strange? But bad bosses, what are bad bosses? There are 4 types of bad bosses. And all of us will recognize this, either because we've worked for them or on a bad day we are like this. The first one is the narcissist person, right? So the narcissistic is basically, only I can do everything, the world exists because of me, etc., etc. And it's very easy to become a narcissist today because most bosses are surrounded by a bunch of ass smellers and kickers. They're not actually real people. That's number one, right? So people get surprised all of a sudden, and my whole stuff is, come on, people, it was so clear. Why? Because they basically are just what they are. So the second one, which is extremely important, is the micromanaging fiddler. Someone who insists that only they can get everything right. The third one is the Oscar contender. The slamming doors, sighing, yelling and screaming, right? Wanting to be the next Brad Pitt. And then the fourth one is the double-crossing assassin. Somebody who tells you one thing and then behind the scenes hurts you. Everybody knows who these people are. Today they basically talk about these people on places like Glassdoor. And people, I see leaders, and my whole stuff is you are dying and dead and nobody even knows it because everybody around you is circumventing, which is one of the most important things. The second thing is what people are basically looking for is can us, we as leaders, can we do these things? And to be successful, we have to do the following three. The first is we have to basically ourselves to our bosses, and then for our own environment, let people recognize that it should be safe for them to say it's a dirt on the table. There are too many meetings when people think it's a cookie in the middle that they're talking about, but it's a piece of shit. Wells Fargo, right? Everybody knew what was going on, but they didn't speak up. Company after company. MIT, look at what's going to take their reputation. For years they were hiding their own stuff, they were taking Epstein's money. How do you do this? So, why? Because people are scared of telling truth to power. So dirt on the table is one thing very important. The second is to recognize that change sucks. So whenever someone tells me that change is good, I say, I'm happy you change. I worked for the same two bosses for 20 years. I worked for the same company for 37 years. I lived in one city for 39. I met my wife when I was 12, 48 years ago and saw a child marriage. I hate change, right? You look at my background, I'm apparently driving change for the last 15, 20 years. Why? Because I hate irrelevance even more, right? But change is really difficult, and unless you incentivize change, unless you understand that it's people who have to change, there's no way it happens. Companies cannot change through M&A, press releases. They can only change by changing the people or changing people's mindsets. It's a little bit more cost-effective to change people's mindset and also a bit more humane. But how do you actually do that? That's the second thing. And the third one is for all of us to recognize that we need to upgrade our mental operating systems. We spend a lot of time figuring out what we eat and how much we exercise. We don't actually spend too much time with what goes into our brain and how do we think. And one of the things is, I always tell people, can you build a case for the exact opposite of what you believe is true? If you can't, I don't actually believe you. Build me the strongest case why the opposite is true, why I can build a case why Trump is the best president America has ever had. I don't believe it, but I can build it, okay, which is kind of interesting. So I'm going to leave and end with a couple of things, which is all of us, in the end, are all about interactions, right? Interactions with each other, the people we meet, the people we do stuff. And whenever there is an interaction, one of the things I found and I studied for my book, and I also observed, is are you listening? Are you truly interacting? Are you feeling? And are you transforming the other person? And in order to do that, what I figured out was in any particular meeting, you want to leave people with a sense of energy, and that energy comes from a clarity of what they need to do next. You want to basically leave them with belief that they are capable of doing so, and a roadmap on how to do it. And I'm going to basically end with a personal story. 1982, 1 year into my career at my company, which by the way is the only company that decided to take a chance on an immigrant Indian. Okay. And I thought I'd stay there for 3 years, get my green card and leave, but I've not been employable, I guess. I'm still there 37 years later. But after the first year, I had this amazing evaluation, absolutely fantastic. My big boss brought me into the room, closed the door, and this is what he basically said. He said, I've read your evaluation, you're doing extremely well, but you will not succeed in this business. And I said, why? He said, because you're too Indian. Okay, it's in my book, because you're too Indian. I said, what does that mean? He said, you talk about cricket, you don't talk about baseball. You don't bullshit, you only talk about work. You have no idea what homecoming is, what American football is, or any of these things. You will never succeed because you will only basically become a left-brain person. You'll run spreadsheets, right? And he says you'll either be a technology person or a consulting person or a finance person, but in this, which is a marketing, culture-driven industry, how the hell are you going to make it happen? And so I'm sitting out there saying, what the shit's going on here? And he says, but I will fix it for you if you are willing to fix it. So I said, like how? He says, what we're going to basically do is we're not going to evaluate you on how you do media. We're going to basically evaluate you on how you write up stuff about football games, baseball games, and others, which I'm going to send you. I'm going to buy you tickets to baseball games and football games. My kids are going to take you for homecoming week to University of Wisconsin and University of Michigan. I'm going to get you into a club where you're going to be the only person of color. Right? And then we're going to see if you're good or not good. What did this person do? He basically told me the truth and he told me how to fix it. We don't do that enough, right? When people have read that story, because I've shared this parts of the book with a lot of women, and I've brought up a whole bunch of women and a whole bunch of people of color, etc., and they say, you actually tell us what the shit's going on, then you tell us how to fix it. That's extremely important, because we as leaders can make everything happen, but it's time for us to face the truth. Thank you.